In a way, the question I would raise is meditation and relaxation the same? Or is relaxation and meditation the same? And I think I'll just start with that kind of question for a moment. And I would like to sort of answer it almost in a one-liner, if possible. And that I see that relaxation is often a precursor for meditation, and relaxation can often be a meditation, and relaxation is only a meditative process if it includes a sense of union or quality beyond the person, a sense of union. At the same time, we can do meditative practices, whether that's a mantra, a prayer, and if it's only to gain being relaxed, it may not be a meditation. And so from my perception, at least as I'll talk today, the issue of relaxation and meditation is really that the meditation includes a sense of wholeness or a sense of unitive experience. So there's an implied quality like that. And in relaxation, that need not be. I would, however, say that in almost all cases, relaxation is the precursor for a meditative practice. And a major reason for that is that in psychophysiology or psychology, that there's the observation that every thought, or I better say most thought, if not all, have a corresponding body activity, and vice versa, body activities are probably associated with thoughts or feelings. That means that if I am not relaxed, either my body or my mind, or I have all these multiple thoughts or attentional movements going back and forth, which would then interfere in the meditation. I think one common theme, at least for me, in many meditative practices, is the ability to allow the mind to be quiet and somehow allow the intention to be directed. Without being distracted, oops, that's my grocery list. Or gosh, my car is in the garage and I wonder if the body will ever get fixed. Or whatever it would be. And so, if I could relax myself, then I would say set the stage to allow a meditative process to occur. So what I like to do for the next hour overall is set the stage and point out that many relaxation techniques have common training procedures of the brain, of mind, or consciousness, which are common to the meditative experience. But let me first be very pragmatic on teaching relaxation. And so what I'd like to do is go over some of the basic steps by which one can relax and how it is helpful. And I would like to divide it into two parts. Part one is the purposeful relaxation for a long time period, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to get the body so quiet that it can automatically readjust itself to a more healthy, hopefully, state. If I get so quiet, in which I stop my thought processes, so I stop the resentments in my brain, the worrying, then at that point the body may allow itself to heal itself more. So that's one type of relaxation. The second type is the ability to learn to relax in daily life. So when I take the San Francisco subway or wherever that is called, and I get nervous, then that nervousness, how can I relax? Or if I'm in a family and I talk to my spouse, and that my spouse says something and I get angry at that moment, how can I at that moment not reflexively fight back? How can I at that moment say, oops, I am reacting, let me get quiet, centered, relaxed in that sense. So I can respond, yet the response is not a reflex. I think if there's an underlying theme, it's probably the belief that health in this sense is the allowing oneself to have the passive control over one's emotions. and not be controlled by one's emotions. And again, in that sense, relaxation techniques during the day are helpful tools for it. So those are the two pieces. Let me start first with learning to relax. How many of you have practiced relaxation techniques? Okay, I see many of you. And what do you practice, for example? Are you willing to share? What do you do?
I just start from the top of the head and go down slowly to the nearest joint, and then back up again. Each one in turn.
So you feel these body parts and let them go more and more?
Yes, I say to them, relax.
Okay. And what you do in that process, right, as you attend, I assume, as you attend, let's say, to your shoulder, what you're doing at that moment, if all of a sudden you think, gosh, I left my soup burning on the stove, that's okay, I go right back to the shoulder. Is that correct?
Try.
Okay. Notice in a sense that's like a Vipassana meditation, if I want to call it that mini process. What I'm doing here, when I do a relaxation technique, if my mind disappears, or goes out to lunch, or whatever you want to call it, I bring it back. So slowly in the process of learning a relaxation technique, if I took the Eastern metaphor of a monkey mind, going in these hundreds of different places, right, the thoughts, I can keep bringing it back, and slowly I learn that control. What other kind of practices do you do? Other relaxation, yes?
Diaphragmatic breathing.
So you breathe gently in here,
Deeply.
and you feel yourself quieting then? So all the disturbances of whatever happens, of the world, I read in the newspaper, I get disturbed, I can let myself quiet? Very nice. Others?
I use a tape to guide me in a situation corresponding to both of them.
So again, that's a way to get quiet. So the tape guides you to say, bring your attention to the back of your head or your shoulders, or feel the muscles tightening and letting go. Others? Have you covered most of the relaxation techniques like that, or any of you do any other relaxation techniques?
I breathe in, and then as I'm letting it out, I imagine that it's coming out through all parts of my body. It's bone breathing, I think we call it. And it's a very quick way to get there.
So you really feel yourself soothing and quieting.
And I imagine that there's a lot of pores in my whole body, and the air is rushing out. The air going out is actually going out through all the pores. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Let me just ask, what happens to your body? Do you notice overall when you feel relaxed, the body feels quieter? Do you notice an increase in saliva for some of you? If you notice you salivate a little bit more sometimes when you relax? Any of you? Yes? Someone say meditation, you know that too, right? All of a sudden you get these gushing, you almost start drooling. I mean, that's not socially polite to do. Is that familiar? Those are often nice signs, like if I notice an increase in salivation, I note my hands warming, some of you, as you relax, your hands warm, you could say the body is relaxing. Let me backtrack for an instant more, and I would want to say is that what we partly learning in a way is to learn to balance the body, because so often in our daily world we get stimulated and we still respond by an alarm reaction. Remember the fight-flight response? Are you familiar with that? You know, if I hear a loud noise, my body will jump in response possibly, or it could be the telephone, or it could be a thought in my brain which says, oops, I wonder what that noise is. Is that the burglar or some minor other person coming into my house? And when I do that, I can feel my heart starting to beat right. I start perspiring a tiny bit. I can notice my hands cooling down. That kind of response happens all the time. And again, it jars me, and the jarring probably triggers other thoughts. So again, the question is, how can I be unjarred? So let me start with one short technique of relaxation which one can do during the day anywhere. I think that's the easiest one. And what I like to do on this little exercise, that is really one which reverses that kind of fight-flight response which happens so often. When I hear the telephone ring, I almost automatically go, I jar. And if I analyze in detail that small process of the alarm reaction, then I would say what happens at that moment is, when a loud noise occurs, or a thought, or a worry occurs, I tend to frown slightly. Is that familiar? I may take a slight breath and hold it, or breathe very shallowly. Is that somewhat familiar? Then I may tighten my shoulders. I'm exaggerating, obviously. And now I feel, and I will monitor my heart rate would change. I would start perspiring slightly and my hands would get cold. I mean, some of you think, you don't always get that whole response totally. However, that's the response I just gave you, I just modeled. You can observe in people when they do a simple task like subtracting from 1,000 to number 7 sequentially. So if I ask you just to do that for a moment, subtract sequentially 7 from 1,000, that would be 993, 986, etc. When you start monitoring people, you often tend to find they start frowning, they tighten, their heart rate changes, and that's just a simple task of performance, and we tighten. When we have a real worry of anger or whatever, it gets even more so. So I thought what I'd like to do is just teach a short technique known as the quieting response, which a friend of mine at Hartford, Connecticut, Chuck Strobel, has developed as a way to counter that kind of reaction. So from now on, what I'd like you to do is always look forward to all these situations when you get tight. No, I'm real serious. Next time you drive on the highway or the freeway in California and somebody cuts in front of you, right? Oh no, they never do this around here, I'm sure. Then at that moment, I'd like you just to do the following exercise. The moment you start feeling your body going, I'd like you to do the following. What is the following? It's a sequential process to reverse that excessive tightening or alarm reaction. Step 1. I'd like you to smile. And the reason when you smile, is that these frontalis muscles, these muscles that are here, go flaccid in people. The one that previously frowned when people smile, if you put electrodes inside the muscle, you note that these muscles which previously were tightened, when somebody smiles, these muscles go flaccid or become relaxed. So I purposely smile. And we'll practice once at least here. I believe in practice, so. Okay? And it probably doesn't, you can't always smile. And I imagine, I look at my department chairman, he's going to, when I come back and he says, where's this the report or, this paper which is due, and I'm going to and I feel his response. Obviously, if I'm going to go to him now and go, he may not totally understand. However, what I can do at that moment, I can sort of sparkle inside of me. Would that be another way of thinking about it? And the way I think of it mentally is I can sort of sparkle to the right and sparkle to the left. It's like you normally would flirt. You sparkle to the right and sparkle to the left. Is that familiar as a sense? You see, that's a kind of internal smile. That's part 1. That would relax these muscles. Second, I'm going to take a gentle diaphragmatic breath. I'm going to take a gentle breath. I inhale. Notice the second step of the alarm reaction is I hold my breath. So in this case, what I'll do is I'm going to purposely breathe again. I could say when I hold my breath, I go, is that what we often do? And I could say if I'm anxious, I take in all this anxiety. If I'm in the middle of a fight, if somebody comes up to me and I go, I can almost pictorially think I'm taking in all this anxiety or nervousness of the other person. So this time, when I catch myself going, I now gently take a gentle breath and I exhale again. And when I let the air go out, I'm going to let my jaw go slack. And let my shoulders so sort of loose. And I imagine that the air goes right down my arms, which would allow the blood vessels to open up again. And notice that the breathing will regularize the breathing again. And then when I exhale, my jaw goes slack. I loosen my clenching of the jaw, which I tend to do under stress, and I let my shoulders go as well. Is that clear, the steps? Well, what I'd like you to do is before doing it is just practice with each other the sense that air could run down your arms. Can I have a guinea pig? Or volunteer? I know, gosh, I don't do. You want to volunteer? Thank you, sure. What's your name?
Olivia.
Olivia? Mm-hmm. Okay. What I want you to do in a moment with each other, you see, it's advantage coming from Berkeley. Because in Berkeley, California, where people touch. And so, forget it, no. What I'd like you to do in a moment with each other is get the sense, potentially, of allowing your attention to go down your arms when you exhale. So what I'd like Olivia to do in a moment is take a deep breath, gently. And then when she exhales, she's going to practice. She's going to blow the air out of her mouth, hopefully. Let her jaw go loose. Let's purposely whisper ha. And in her imagination, she's going to imagine that the air goes right down her arms. And I'm going to help her. So I'm going to watch her when she inhales. So inhale. And now when you exhale, blow the air down your arms. And notice I'm going to squeeze down her arms as she exhales. So that will help her to remind herself to follow the air down. Do it one more time. Could you feel the air going down? Yes?
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
Okay, good. Thank you. Is that all clear of everybody? So why don't you just turn to each other for a moment and practice that step once. So you take a gentle breath and squeeze each other's arms downward. Oh, you can come up here. Or Dora will do it with you.
No, you do it with me.
Okay. Did most of you get a sense that you could bring your attention down your arms, you could feel the air flow down your arms? If you did this gently, what would happen overall, if you could like half imagine the arms were filled like straws or stuff and the air could just go out your fingers or your feet, overall what would happen, you could also do it down your legs obviously, is that as you blow the air and you're imagining down, you can almost imagine they warm up a little bit. What often happens is that the hands will warm up a tiny bit. And again, it means I'm relaxing. Okay. Now I would like to put the little exercise all together. So remember, the sequence would then be if I find a worry in my brain or whatever it is, or a car cuts in front of me, the telephone rings, whatever happens, somebody starts yelling at the street at me, I can just at that moment, I smile, right? I sparkle to the right, sparkle to the left, take a gentle deep breath, and then exhale in my imagination, blow the air right down my arms, and let my jaw go slack. Notice how short it takes? It's a few seconds, that's all. So why don't we just all practice once, at least? So what you do, something happened, right? At that moment, you sparkle to the right, sparkle to the left. You can do it. Or you can smile. I don't care. But for that moment, something happens. You sparkle to the right, sparkle to the left. Take a deep breath. And then blow the air. And note how you did your mouth loosen a little bit. The air sort of comes out and it blows right down your arms. Is that clear? Let's do it. Now I'd like you to do it once more. And now I'll snap my fingers like it's a telephone ringing. Or I clap my hands, and that's a loud noise where probably, at home, like a telephone rings, you get all jarred. Is that for some of you true or not? Okay. Well, now when you hear the phone ring, this time you have an opportunity to let it ring one more time. And in that one more time ringing, I can just practice letting myself go. It's like I could say, I'm getting more centered at that instant. Instead of going all jarred, I can go, okay. So, yes?
How do you keep yourself from yawning all the time when you relax?
No, that's very healthy. That's great.
That was bad.
No, it's just nice. Really, that's perfectly. It's just the brain just tells you I need to relax, and the yawn is just great. I'm sorry. But you notice it's a nice stretching activity I do, right? I get all this fresh air coming in, so it's very nice. I don't see any difficulty with it. Okay, so if I clap my hands, that's like your telephone ringing. And now just do it a few more times. Now what I'd like you now to do is just sit quietly, maybe even close your eyes, and just think of an event in the past or in the future by which you potentially could get jarred. Like, you drive your car, whatever is your event, I don't care. And the moment you catch that you start reacting, stop the thought, do this little exercise. Is it clear what I'm asking? Okay, just go through this once. And how do you feel? What happened? You know the difference? Yes, no? Like, what do you experience? What else? She took a too deep breath. She went like this. Be gentle to yourself.
I notice that if you relax your tongue also.
Uh-huh. Your jaw, right, and tongue.
Well, your jaw also, but your tongue is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
In your mouth, that when you relax your tongue, your whole body.
For you, that's very nice. How was it to now think of that event which previously got you jarred and you did this? Did it feel less jarring? Yes? I noticed I would be less disturbed by it. That's another way I could think of it. These events disturb me. And what if I think of me being disturbed and going like this or whatever, then that little exercise sort of gets me a little more quiet and more centered. Otherwise the disturbance goes like this and then I bounce right back to the person or to the event. And now for a moment I can quiet down. It gives me and notice how short it is. It takes 3 or 4 seconds, 5 seconds. No one would ever know you would do it.
We also get caught up in the demand of something else and not what we need for us.
That's right. And notice this is such a short item. If somebody says, please give me this, or my child would say, cries or does something, yells, mommy, daddy. At that moment, equally, because what I would tend to do is after a while, I want to just take this little kid and be very nice to it. But at that instant, for a moment, I could just go, shh, and it would be less personal. Yes?
I think you have to be careful not to let that exhalation sound like a disgusted sigh.
Yes, that's
A child.
No, I think that's an excellent point. Notice it's more, at least the air just flows freely. I purposely try to make the sound. It's not like I go, and that's when I may get lightheaded if I go like this. Spark to the right, spark to the left. Notice that, it's like I'm forcing myself to relax. It's truly passively allowing. Relaxation is not doing. You cannot force yourself to relax. It's like when I exhale, I can inhale, and then for the exhalation, I just let the whole body just go by itself. And I purposely make the sound so you can hear it. It's more like, I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's like it just flows out. It's like almost like the liquid just flowing out of a kind of bottle or something like that. It just bubbles right out without any effort. It's not like, and if you catch yourself going, I think that's the other part about relaxation. We tend to think of relaxation that I can make myself relax. No. Relaxation is a kind of allowing. I can't force myself to it. It is not doing. So maybe what I'll do now then is I'll shift back to now, how can I optimize relaxation for a little longer time period? Which often is a very useful strategy before meditation. And what are the steps I need to be aware of? Step 1. When I do relaxation, at least I'm looking for some form of self-motivation, possibly. I want to practice. That's the obvious pieces. And hopefully an attitude in time of passive attention. I can't force myself to relax. So at least be aware of that process. And I think 2, it's important, at least in the beginning, to learn under situations which are comfortable. Like if jet noises keep taking off and I keep being jarred, it's just going to be more challenging to relax. If I know the telephone is going to ring in 5 minutes, disconnect the telephone or answer the telephone. So it's important to be in an environment, at least in the beginning, which is supportive to encourage the relaxation. It means a quiet environment, somewhat comfortable position. It means that my body needs to be comfortable. If I have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom first. It gets messy if I relax. It's just difficult to do it. Because I have this continual urgency to say, hold. They're minor and they're important. Let me go on for a moment more. If I relax with my eyes closed, if I wear hard contacts, take the contacts out, it's very challenging to relax with hard contacts. They're irritants at times. If I learn to relax and let's say I wear full dentures, part of it may be a fear that I would lose my dentures. And then, notice I would hold my jaw tight. Be sure that your belt is loose. If I look at relaxation, the breath is like imagine an upside down umbrella inside of me. You know, where the hook is in my throat and the umbrella sort of goes right down here. Is that familiar? Can you image almost? And now imagine as I inhale, the umbrella sort of opens up. So it would be like this. And as I exhale, the umbrella closes down. That would be if I breathe very easily and comfortably, my breath is very easy. However, that means that there needs to be space to relax in here as well. And if I wear a very tight belt or corset, then it would be very hard to do our pantyhose, because there would be elastic holding me in, and then I couldn't really relax. It means I have to breathe high up in my chest. And if I breathe up in my chest, I give panic reactions. You know, when I start breathing high up in here, I get panicky a little bit. Very subtle. So at least even the clothing I wear will contribute to whether I can relax or not relax. Let's see if any other pieces. Okay. The other part really is that overall when I do a relaxation, I'm going to allow myself to train my attention. Relaxation is not daydreaming. It can be that, but hopefully, at least if I move toward the meditative tradition, relaxation is really the training of the attentive attention. It means as I relax and my brain starts disappearing, you know, of these nice fantasies, at least either I structure it that way or I keep coming back to the task at hand. And I would maybe do these kinds of exercise and some form of exercise for a fairly long period, maybe initially about 5 minutes maybe, then 10 minutes or 15 minutes, up to 20 or 30 minutes of relaxation. But let me go through one of the classic relaxation techniques which will incorporate this, and I'll guide you through for about 10 minutes. And many of you may know this is known as progressive relaxation. This is the traditional process out of which many of the American relaxation techniques are based. It was developed by Edmund Jacobson, who's a nice man, or in about 96 years old. And I want to point out, he has practiced the technique himself for many of you, and he truly is relaxed and is healthy. So I have to say, at least on technique-wise, that's pretty remarkable. He's the only physician I know of who has 50-year follow-ups on his patients, teaching this kind of technique. The technique overall is learning to become aware when I'm tightening a certain muscle group, and learn not only to recognize, that's awareness of bracing patterns, tightening patterns, as well as the ability to let go voluntarily. So it's both. And it's the ability to be able to be relaxed in the activity during the day. It isn't only that I want to be relaxed for the 20 minutes in a special exercise. I want to be able to carry that quality out as I'm even lecturing. So if I learn to relax for 20 minutes, and now I jump up and I lecture like this, notice this whole day I would tighten in here, it just won't, that would make it difficult. So the key is, how can I lecture, let's say, keep my neck and shoulders loose? So I continue, you have to become aware of that. All right, let me start in that little exercise. I would say if you train it, it takes a while. Let's start with your forearm. I'd like you to have your arm on your lap, sort of rested comfortably. I'll sort of model like this. So have it there, rested comfortably in your lap. And what I'd like you to do in a moment is I'd like you to lift your hand back at the wrist. Okay? I'm going to bring my arm up. Please don't bring your arm up. Just hold the hand up. As you're doing this, I'd like you to attend to the sensations in the forearm and note what you feel. What are the sensations of tautness? What are you feeling? You willing to say out loud what some of you feel? You feel a tight muscle here? Others. You feel contraction here? Others. Feel pull in the back of the hand. How about the muscle here still? Others? You feel some pain. Be gentle to yourself. Some of you may not feel anything. Would that be right?
Feels like there's energy.
You feel something there, right? Okay, now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to let the hand plop down. And what I mean by that is I don't put it down gently. I don't throw it down. I just let it go plop. And now I'd like you to continue to attend, as it is now in a more relaxed state, hopefully, to the sensations of the relaxation in that forearm again. And what are you feeling? Note the difference in the tautness. Do you know the different sensation? What do you feel? What are you experiencing as you let go? Tingly, but others? Feel some warmth, others? Some of you feel bigger. We all vary on the sensations. Keep bringing your brain to that location. Gently, like you don't be, it's not that I'm going to say, ooh, I gotta have sensation. It isn't like that. It's more like for me, like I half listen to that location. And what is happening to your attention? Does it keep drifting off? Or can you keep bringing it back? Good. Okay, let's do it again. I'd like you to lift the hand back at the wrist and mentally observe the sensations in the forearm and be sure that as you lifted it, you continue to breathe. Some of you know that you may have held your breath the moment you lifted your hand back. And just observe the sensations there. And then just let it go limp. And when you let it go limp or loose or relaxed, notice it just drops. It's almost like I'm a Raggedy Ann doll. Is that a good image? Or is at that moment, if my arm is up, it plops. I let it go. Keeping your attention back to the forearm. Listen to it carefully. And now note how that arm feels different from the other arm. You notice differences? Yes, no?
Feels heavier.
Feels heavier, okay. But other, warmer? Other sensations?
Tingling in the fingertips.
Okay. Some of you may even feel throbbiness in the fingertips. Heavier, okay. Anybody has difficulty with that task? I mean, for some of us, we don't feel anything. Any of you didn't notice much sensation at all? This is a remarkable group. Usually when we work, it's like there must be 20% of the people, when they do it, they don't notice anything. That's very normal. Usually what you want to do then is do it longer and tighter initially. The key is awareness. Can I feel the sensation? And let it go. And note how similar the instructions that are to a meditative practice. Like if I did a mantra, right? That's one repetitive word, or a prayer. I attend to the prayer, and if my brain disappears, I start daydreaming, I bring it right back. In this exercise, the meditation, you could say, is focusing on the body. I call it only relaxation training because the exercise does not include an awareness of a larger whole. If I include that kind of awareness, and oneness awareness, then I would call the meditation as well. But let me now guide you structurally through this exercise for about 10 minutes. And first note how you feel now. Maybe you feel alert, sleepy, or whatever. Tight. Okay, then let your legs be uncrossed. I'm going to do it myself too, so I'm going to be real lazy. Be sure you can allow your belt to be loose, so your tummy can bubble out a bit. Sort of undo the upper button or two of your pants, or I'll try to remind you when you stand up to retighten. Okay? Let your arms be on your lap, plop. And I'm going to just ask you to sequentially tighten different muscle groups. And remember, if your attention drifts away, there are two tasks I'd like you to do in this exercise. One, continually attend to that area of muscle you're tightening or letting go. Two, keep breathing throughout the whole exercise. Do not hold your breath when you do a muscle tightening task. And 3, tighten only that muscle group and no others. So if I ask you to lift your hand back at the wrist, let me lift my hand back at the wrist without tightening my shoulder at the same time. Okay, what I'd like you to do is bend your right hand back at the wrist. It may be easier if you close your eyes. And note the sensations in the forearm. And now let the hand just drop, limp and loose. And note the change. And note the feelings of letting go. And now I'd like you to bend the other hand back at the wrist. And note the sensations again in your forearm. Be sure you keep breathing. You're not tightening any other muscle groups. The jaw is loose, the tongue is loose. Maybe even the lips are slightly parted as you exhale. And now let the hand just drop loose, limp and loose. And again, continue to bring your attention back to the arm and note the change in sensations as the muscles let go. And now I'd like you to lift both hands up a tiny bit off your lap and I'd like you to make fists with both hands. And note the tightness, and remember you're breathing easily and comfortably, and your jaw is loose. You're not tightening any other muscle groups except the forearm and a tiny bit in the biceps to lift the hands slightly off the lap. You keep breathing easily and comfortably. I note the sensation of tightness. And now let it go limp and loose. And note the letting go sensations. And now let's look at the muscles in the back of the upper arm. What I'd like you to do is press your wrists into your thighs, as if you're straightening the arms. Be sure your jaw is loose and your neck is loose. Be sure your neck stays loose, so you bob your head around a little bit, that the head stays loose, and keep breathing at the same time. And keep observing the sensations in the back of the upper arms. And now let it go limp and loose. And now I'd like you to bring your wrist right to your shoulders. And keeping the hands loose and keep breathing as you did this. And tighten your biceps. That's the muscles in the forward part of your arm. Remember your neck stays loose, your jaw is loose. Note the tightness in the biceps. And now just let them go limp and loose. And notice as your hands drop, they just plopped. Letting the arms get looser. And now let's go to the neck and shoulders. What I'd like you to do is to raise your shoulders up and keep your head loose. And neck loose. And maybe I have to almost raise my shoulders a tiny bit. And maybe just let my head go around. And I keep observing the tightness sensations in my shoulders. My jaw is loose. Notice it's possible to keep the neck sort of loose when I raise my shoulders a tiny bit. I know the sensations. Now let's let it go limp and loose. And note the letting go sensations. Now I'd like you to curl your shoulders forward. And as you're doing that, you keep breathing easily and comfortably. And now just let it go limp and loose. And note the sensations. And now I'd like you to curl the shoulders backwards. And note the sensations. And be sure you keep breathing. The neck is loose, the jaw is loose, the legs are loose. Let it go limp and loose. I'll also quickly go through some different other muscle groups. What I'd like you to do is just arch your back a tiny bit. Note the tightness in your back. Be sure the arms are loose. Note the tautness. Note the sensations. And let it go limp and loose. And keep observing the difference in the muscle groups. And I'd like you to tighten your stomach as if someone's going to give it a blow. And still allow some breath to occur. Remember, your shoulders stay loose. Your jaw is loose. And now just let your tummy bubble out, loosen up again. And notice as you inhale and exhale how much easier it is. For a moment, I'd like you to exhale all your air and hold it. Keep holding at the end. Don't let air come back in yet. Then what I'd like you to do in a moment is swallow and let the air come back in. So at the end of the exhalation now, swallow and let the air come back in. And note the difference how the air now moves in and out of the body. Now let's go to the legs. What I'd like you to do is curl your toes towards your knees and observe the sensations of tightening in the forelegs. And now let it go limp and loose. I'd like you to press the heels into the floor. Note the tautness in the back of the legs. And be sure you keep breathing. If your attention drifts away, bring it back to the muscle groups. And now just let it go limp and loose. And now just lift the legs up a tiny bit from the floor, your heels. Note the tautness in the forward part of the legs. Bring your arms up in front of you for a moment. Make a tight fist. Keep breathing. Let the jaw be loose, the neck be loose. Note the sensation of tightness. And now just let it all go limp and loose. And for a moment, just keep observing the sensations of letting go. And as I'm possibly more relaxed, with my eyes closed, I'd like you to start your own meditative practice you may do, whatever it may be. For some of you, you may want to do a small prayer. For others, it is an internal mantra. For a third, it is sense being like a tree and feeling the sounds of nature around me. So if I don't know what to do, maybe I can be very quiet and hear the sounds, the possibility of the wind even still outside, in the sense that I continue with nature. And if my attention drifts away to other things, I gently bring it back. And I'll be quiet for 2 minutes. And experience the quietness and a sense of unity with the other members in the group here. Then the way we're all interconnected. And now just gently take a deep breath, stretch. And you've all been sitting for a while. You can even stand up in your chair for a moment to really move. Allow the body has to move for a moment. And then again shift back and sit in a more comfortable position. What did you experience? You felt more relaxed, more tense? What?
After this, I did a little meditation, sometimes I deeper breathing, really.
So you found that when you start to meditate, your breathing was very much deeper and easier? Is that for others? You felt much more at peace, so you could then enter the meditation more easily? For others? Ah, you all of a sudden found more rested, like you had a mini nap. Or for a few of you, realized you needed a nap.
The eyes more relaxed too.
You felt that they were less twitchy.
Yes.
Aha. So it's less fighting to not move them or something. Others?
I noticed that my shoulders tightened up.
Aha. So is it possible to meditate keeping your shoulders relaxed?
It's interesting. I never noticed it.
So that's the other part of differential relaxation, the ability on one side let my body be relaxed more. How can I carry that relaxation out in daily tasks? Meditation is such a task as well. Or maybe when I do the dishes next time, before I do the dishes, I can stand, can tighten my shoulders, let them go, and then I can just play with the dishes, keep my shoulders low. And I can practice it anywhere. Others?
Difficult to open the eyes.
To open?
Difficult to open the eyes after that.
Is that for others too? I mean, you felt almost sleepy, or you felt just it was hard to open?
Yeah, it was hard to open the eyes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that will, especially if I do it purely by myself, I can guide myself through very carefully to observe just the sensations. When I tighten the muscle and let it go, I think that will probably go easily. Any other difficulties, observations?
I was more aware of the tautness in my muscles in my eyes, and when that it became more difficult to relax, the more aware I became.
Uh-huh. Yes, the first step, that's the intriguing part. The first step in relaxation usually is that people are more aware how tight they are. It's like when you tighten muscle, you could feel them letting go, right? And then you notice all the other places that were tight. And you're saying, oh, I'm bad. And if, in a way, look at that and say, gosh, now I'm real lucky that I can now observe it, because now I can slowly practice these skills more. They are learned skills. Learning, it isn't that I'm innately relaxed. That's slumping, that's not being relaxed. It is a learned skill, just like I learned to ride a bicycle. I mean, these practices are written up in many different forms. Probably one of the best texts is Edmund Jacobson's initially, Progressive Relaxation. Another version, which you can probably have at the library downstairs here, is in a book we wrote on mind-body integration. I mean, from the inside out, it has a kind of structure like this. There are hundreds of other books which have these kinds of relaxation techniques. They are, however, learned processes. Consider it takes 4 or 5 weeks to learn the relaxation. And then I can let it go more easily. How was it for those who meditated? Did you notice a different quality when you started than when you normally start? You shake your head, yes.
More relaxed physically,
So, and was it easier then to hold your attention to your meditation?
no mind wandering.
There was no mind wandering. I think that's true. When my body is totally relaxed, my brain is essentially totally relaxed. And maybe at least in that sense, I think relaxations are a kind of precondition for a meditation or for prayer or whatever technique I would use. And so when I and I meditate next time and I'm real noisy, I mean, I can learn equally well to keep bringing my attention back. And in fact, at the end of meditation, most of you feel quieter, don't you? When I've meditated for 15 minutes, my body feels more quiet because what I'm doing there is all these noises go back and forth. I slowly let them pass by, and then as there's less noise in my head, there's less noise in my body, and my body is relaxed. The major part we did in the beginning here in the relaxation is structure to say how can I as quickly possible get the body relaxed. And it really means there's no separation. Mind, body are the same. And so a kind of structured process like that. There are hundreds of relaxation techniques, literally. They all, I think, ask for attentive training. Bring one's attention. So I think I would like to end before questions with one more short relaxation technique which we can do all the time. It combines again the first one, the quieting response to the breath. And what I'd like you to do is essentially do very slow diaphragmatic breathing. And I'd like you to start with just self-practice by putting your hands on your sides, if that's possible. Get your rib cage, you know. And when you do that, let your jaw be loose and your neck be loose. And I'd like you for a moment to purposely exhale, whisper high, and when you do that, I'd like you to squeeze your sides and your tummy. So it's like this if I modeled. And note how the stomach sort of folds in then. And now, when you ran out of air, let the air come back in, let your hands release. And now again, really squeeze that area purposely. And now let it come back in. That's enough. I don't want to I don't want to hyperventilate anyone. Did you get a sense of the movement more lower in the pelvis? In time, you can almost feel it almost in your hip joints, they start moving. So what I'd like you now to do is to sit very quietly, shift to a comfortable position, and I'd like you to gently let the air come in, and when you exhale, let the abdomen just fold in, so pull the stomach in as the air goes out, so the abdomen folds in. And then as the air comes back in, let the abdomen just go out. Very gently, not super deep breaths, just slowly and steadily. And if one's brain is noisy, maybe attend to where the air goes in your nose. And if I want to exhale through my mouth, maybe I could listen to the sound of a very soft sound, ha. And this way, if my attention drifts away, I keep bringing it back where the air goes in my nose, or potentially where it goes out my nose. And I keep attending to let the air go very low in my abdomen. On the inhalation, the abdomen goes out. On the exhalation, the abdomen comes in. And just do that for a minute or two. I think that's probably enough. And now just check how you feel. You feel quieter, peaceful? What happened? You feel quieter? Others? Same? Okay. I think after often any kind of body movements, such as yoga exercises, relaxation occurs. An alternative way to do it in sort of in the Western side would be if you go jogging or running. I mean, if I think of giving the alarm reaction where I tighten up, really my body is ready to fight, flee. And if I now did exercise, I would burn up all the adrenaline, the glucose dumped in my body, and I would feel relaxed again. Now, how many of you, after a game of tennis or sort of running up the stairs, though you may be a little bit out of breath, you feel more relaxed when you sit down? Is that familiar? So at least some of the asanas would be a way where when I do body movements, I would get quiet automatically. And my brain gets quieter as I direct in whether it's the cobra position or some other positions, and I would develop relaxation, yes. Okay, let me recommend, and I'll guide you through, but I would recommend that guiding through lying down. I'll gladly do it for 5 minutes here if you or anybody else would like to lie on the floor and do it for a moment. Okay? And the best book I could think of where it's written up, it's a Feldenkrais exercise, and it's written up in a book by Maas and Houston called Listening to the Body. It's a very nice exercise. It's a long one. It takes about 30 or 40 minutes, although I'll shrink it with you, okay? And it's just a lovely series of exercises. And your body, this whole area just loosens up totally. So, any of you else? Yes?
Who wrote the book?
It's by Masters and Houston, or Houston and Masters. And it's called Listening to the Body, Delacorte. I believe that's 1980, or maybe 1979 already. I do not remember. But it's those who want to, let me just end with that, those who would like to do an exercise like that, I'll guide you all through. So those who, well, why don't I take her and I'll do it here. That's easy. Why don't you come up here? Do you mind being the guinea pig? Gosh, it's so nice to have somebody being lucky. And any of you would like to leave, please do. I mean,
It's you who have to leave.
I'll do it. Okay. But I'd like you first, you may want to do this as a note, and I'll go through the steps fairly quickly, I'll be honest. Too quickly. However, practice sometime on your living room floor as a kind of interesting sequence of body movements and check how you feel. Okay? What I'd like you to do is just check your shoulders, how your shoulders and neck feel. Notice their tightness, their weight, how well loose it is to rotate your head around and stuff like that. Okay? And now I'd like you to lie down. Oh, why don't you just lie in the middle of the stage? It's easy. Come a little toward me. Hey, sure. And you can bend your knees so it takes a strain out of your lower back if you want. And what I'd like you to do, and some of you can do it on the chair as well. The effect won't be as powerful sitting. But why not you do it all with me as you're sitting as well? Although note, it really helps if gravity helps you by lying down. I'd like you to roll your head gently from one side to the other. Gently. And in this exercise, there's never any forcing. I never go to the point of pain. I never really stretch. I just gently roll back and forth a few times. So I roll the head back and forth from one side to the other. That's good enough. I stop in the middle. I stop for a moment and check how I feel. After every one of the pieces, I stop and I observe myself. It's a study in self-awareness. It is not a mechanical exercise. I don't do these kinds of exercises while watching TV. I'm asking for a congruence between brain and body. What I'd like you now to do is put your arms up like this. And I'd like you to gently roll from one side of the arms to the other, so that the elbows sort of touch the floor. And just gently do this. You stretch only as far as that feels comfortable. Maybe you keep breathing all the time. I think that's good enough for a moment. Stop. Let the arms drop back on your lap. Now I'd like you to do it again. And this time, I'd like you to do it and move your head in the direction of your elbow. And you're breathing easily and comfortably as you do that. I think that's enough. Usually you would do these movements about 20 times. But for my plain sake, I'm going to do it more rapidly, okay? Now do it one more time. And this time I'd like you to move your head in the opposition to your elbows. So now I go in the opposite way. And I keep breathing at the same time. Remember, I always go very nice and slowly. Or you can do it easily, but there's no forcing. The head goes in opposition to the elbows. There's never forcing. I think that's probably good enough. Let the hands just rest like they were before and check it out. How does it feel? Now I'd like to make life more difficult. I'd like you to bring your hands and interlace your fingers like this. And at this time I'd like you to again go all the way around so the wrists touch the floor. And you may want to move your head in the same direction as your wrist. And then come back the opposite side. Be gentle when you do this. There's never any personal stretching, remember? You just go to the place how far you go. And look in the direction of movement. Okay, I think that's good enough. Again, stop for a moment. And now I'd like you to put both palms together and do it once more. And this time, notice you have to lift your shoulder up a tiny bit to do that. And do a few going with, the head going with the hands, and a few the head going in the opposite direction of the hands. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'll do only a few more and then I'll stop in this whole sequence. What I'd like you to do is put your hands on your chest. And I'd like you to flap your arms like a bird. Gently. And then I'd like you to make sometimes little circles with my elbows. And then giant circles with my elbows. And even when I do this, I touch my rib cage. And then sometimes I go clockwise. And then I go counterclockwise. And sometimes one arm goes one way and the other arm goes the opposite way. So play and explore the range and the domain of the movements. You can do your own creativity here. Really, I mean, please don't mimic me. Really explore. I think that's probably good enough. Stop for a sec. Now what I'd like you to do is bring your arms out like this for you. For the rest of you, you can have your arms way up. And I'd like you to reach up with one hand and then let it sort of plop down a little bit. So reach up, plop down, reach up, plop down. So it sort of wraps on the floor. That's it. It just goes plop, plop. Be real loose. You don't have to look at your hands. Let the head be looking almost forward. Do it a few times and let your hands just all go down. Good. The final one I'd like you to do is, there are two more steps. I'd like you to bring your hands up like this again in front of you. And now I'd like you to inscribe large circles and then tiny circles. Sometimes it's both arms the same way and sometimes the arms the opposite way. Slowly, we're not here to fight or stretch. You can do the crawl sometimes, you know. You can do a tiny circle. You keep breathing all the time. It really works easier on the floor. You can keep doing that for a moment. I think that's good enough, right? Now finally, let your hands sort of be on your lap, gently. And now I'd like you to sort of go down with one hand, stroking your lap, and then the opposite way. And as you do that, I'd like you to roll your head in the direction of which your shoulder moves. And remember, you keep breathing easily and comfortably. I think that's good enough. Now just stop. And now I'd like you just to check and roll your heads back and forth again very easily and see if you know the difference. Just move it gently back and forth. Does it feel different? Very gently. Good enough. Stop. And now I'd like you to bring your elbows over here again. And now very gently just go back and forth for a moment. A note of looseness in the neck and shoulders. Just do it sort of quickly. Good enough. And now I'd like you to roll to your side, and then gently get up, and keep breathing as you get up. And now check your shoulders out again. How does it feel? How does your neck feel?
Much better.
You feel looser? Notice that took a little... How about others? How was it sitting, even doing it sitting up? Your neck feels looser for most of you? What? Your back feels looser too. That's $25. Thank you.
Thank you.